Well, another busy day in our nation's capital as the 117th session of Congress is in its final weeks, and that end cannot get here fast enough. A House vote on the so-called Respect for Marriage Act was postponed yet again. Keep praying. Taking a back seat as legislators focused on budget talks and the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, latest version, the NDAA, does include language that would eliminate the COVID shot mandate for military service members, but it does not call for reinstatement of service members already discharged for not getting the jab. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Jody Hice. He serves on the House Committee on Oversight and Reform and the House Committee on the National Resources. He represents Georgia's 10th Congressional District. Congressman Hice, welcome back to the program.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the Georgia election. Record voter participation.
Sounds like suppression, doesn't it? I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable that we would have Senator Warnock come out and say, in spite of having record turnouts at the ballot box, we still have voter suppression in Georgia. It absolutely is a false statement through and through.
To me, it sounds like there's voter confidence.
Absolutely. And look, Georgia had problems in the past. We know that. The General Assembly passed SB 202. They've addressed many of the problems. I think there are probably some more that need to be addressed in the upcoming general session that will be coming up in January. But they've made great progress trying to address problems of the past, and the fact that we had such an incredible turnout in this election is evidence that voters in Georgia are having confidence that their votes actually count.
There's still work to be done, but I think as you've seen, almost 24 states that have reformed their election laws, it is bringing confidence. And we're going to talk more about that in our next segment with the chair of the RNC. I think we need to use some of these laws that the Democrats have put in place that we don't necessarily agree with, but we need to make sure that every conservative is participating and voting in these elections.
Well, there's no question about that, and it's interesting. You may not be aware of this. It literally happened right before me coming over here today, but the reason the NDAA currently is being stalled on having a vote is because some Democrats are demanding that H.R. 4 be added to it, which is a federal takeover of elections.
Yeah, I was actually on the phone with another member, this shortly before coming on, because it's the rule that they've tied, and this is kind of complicated, I hate to get into this, to the weeds on this, but they're linking the NDAA to the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which they've already attached the Disrespect for Marriage Act to.
Yeah, and all these things that are not germane at all to funding our military and making sure that our military is suited to defend us as a country, and they just add all this garbage to it during lame duck sessions like this, and that's the danger of these lame duck periods of time.
So let's talk about this. We're going to talk more about it later, but the vaccine mandate. So the White House is opposed to even stopping the mandate for the shot, not talking about reinstating those members and making them whole. Will the Republicans go along with just stopping the shot and not addressing this is atrocious what's happened to these members of the military.
It absolutely is, and they should not go along with it. Some of them probably will, but they shouldn't, because what was added was to rescind the letter calling for the vax mandate, but it does not prohibit it. So you're going to still have certain companies or certain whatever parts of the military that say, well, I want everyone in this group to have the shot, and they will still be able to do so. This does not do away with it at all, and even beyond that, for those who have been dismissed by the military, which we have thousands and thousands and thousands, there's no pathway for them to be reinstated. It's just no Republican should be supporting this.
The president himself has declared that the pandemic is over. Why are we even having the discussion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is a great point. Everyone knows the pandemic is over. And yet it is all a push for power. And it is as though, and I don't want to go too far, Tony, but it is as though there is a patriot purge taking place in our military, an attempt to get rid of people in our military who have feelings of patriotism to this country and liberty, the values that we stand for. They want to get rid of those people, it appears, so that they can have individuals in the military who will unfold and enforce the liberal radical agenda of this current
I'm
administration.
going to talk with General Boykin about this later, but the Navy having such difficulty meeting their recruiting requirements that they're actually lowering the entrance score requirement to enter into the Navy.
And the Navy's not the only ones who are falling far short of their recruitment goals, and this is extremely concerning.
So let me make sure I understand. So we're pushing healthy, trained men and women, in fact, in some cases, Navy SEALs, pushing them out, while at the same time, no one wants to come in through the front door.
Exactly, that's what we're facing, and you can't hardly blame people for not wanting to enter into this type of military environment.
And we're having, as I read the reports, difficulty in the South where you have a disproportionate number of conservatives. I hate to offend all our friends up north, but down in the South, God-fearing, patriot Americans who, are just not going to go along with this stuff. So they're looking at other options rather than the military.
That's right. And again, you can't blame them for doing so. I know our office in the last couple of years has been inundated with military personnel who have, they've not been able to get waivers for their religious beliefs or whatever other waivers they've been trying to seek for a dismissal from the vaccine mandates. They've been forced out of the military. And in that forcing out, some of them are potentially losing their retirements, even though they've been there for decades. Some of them, they're losing benefits with the VA because they
get a general discharge.
It's a general, not an honorable discharge, and because it's been decreased from honorable to general, they lose potentially a significant number of benefits.
It's a travesty. Before we run out of time, Congressman Hice, the budget negotiations, there are some wanting to do an omnibus. Others, conservatives, saying we should have just a short-term funding into the first part of next year and let this new Congress actually set the funding priorities.
Well, that's exactly the way it should be. And again, everything rises and falls on leadership. And right now we're going to see what kind of leadership we have and how they're going to fight. Look, the Democrats would want nothing more than to set forth a continuing resolution of the current budget that would go for another year. So that for another year, although we would have control of the House of Representatives, we would be subject to continue paying for all the horrible liberal agenda items that they have.
The biggest leverage the House of Representatives will have is the budget.
Exactly. And that's why that fight has to happen right now, and it's a fight we cannot afford to lose. We need a continuing resolution that would just go in the first week or two of January and give time for the next Congress to step up and take charge, since they are the controlling party at this point.
So where do we stand right now?
It's, we're going to see. I'm still waiting to, of course, we don't know exactly what the CR is going to be. So it's a game of speculation right now at this point. But I think Kevin McCarthy right now needs to be making all the noise he can and drawing a line in the sand saying we will not put up with any CR that does not meet these certain barriers and standards.
Is this an issue that people need to be calling their members of Congress?
Absolutely. Unless they want to be paying through the nose for a bunch of radical agenda items over the next year. These things need to come to a stop, and now's the time for us to address them.
All right, Congressman Jody Hice, always great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Great to be with you.